Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Today is the start of a very hectic and hopefully productive day. Dad's over servicing the drapers. Jeff is starting the semi trucks. He's gonna fuel them up, take them to the elevator because they're loaded. I'm gonna go ahead and start shuffling stuff around here on the lot because we've got a big 35-mile move to the west to cut a couple hundred acres of a 3.7 Beck soybean, and it should be a good day. I'm excited to see how they perform. We manage them a little bit differently in the spring versus everything else. It's a different location, so there could be potential for some positive surprises. Technically, we're off to a bad start because Mom called me first thing and said Dad left his phone at home. Either he's already accidentally making mistakes today, or he's gone off the deep end and ran away. I'm assuming he's over working on the drapers just based on knowing him, although he could be a state away by the time we find him. I don't know, couldn't blame him if he did run. Oil should be fine, just gotta check it. One above the fill line, and the tractor's parked on a hill, so it's probably fine. I fueled this up last night. I'm just gonna move it out of the way so other stuff can get to the fuel barrel. Both combines will need topped off. Jeff's headed to get one of the trucks empty. I think we'll need all three trucks over at Tower Hill. Surely the beans make 70. They had better weather and less water damage than us. I've got Chris going to get some talc to lubricate and keep the tracks on the grain cart cool. A long journey can be hard on track systems. That's why you put talc on them. I'm gonna see if I can find my old man, get him his phone, just in case there's an emergency. Not expecting one, just helps to have a communication device. There he is, up there checking the oil on the X9. He's as predictable as Swiss cheese. It's just easier to get a hold of him with a phone than smoke signals. I got your phone if you want it.
It wasn't charged.
His phone wasn't forgotten, it was left on the charger on purpose because it didn't charge last night. He's actually disgruntled that I brought it to him because it's only 65% charged. On this one comes down a lot easier than ours. Consider the environment saved. Not really, just wait till they put the 18-liter, 900 horsepower engine in one of these babies. You don't even have to use diesel exhaust fluid. Really fuel efficient. I think we're averaging 0.9 to 1 gallons per acre, cutting 60 to 70 bushel soybeans. Our fuel use would be a little bit higher if we had better yields. We just don't have that this year. Come on, we've got all day for this. It's sort of like watching really, really expensive paint dry. Fueling up is so slow and not exciting. The view's nice. Just kicked off on me. Top her off and we'll be done. Enough. Time to make the journey west. Got everything lined up, except for Katie's combine head. Dad's on his way to get that field opened up. Just gonna lubricate real quick and then join him. There's no way this is safe, but I need to plug a fan in on the way. I stopped by the bin site to drop the cord off. We're gonna show you our progress. Here's home, Katie's on her way. I'm a third of the way, maybe a fourth of the way there. And then there's Dad, he's approaching Shelbyville. And we're going all the way over here to Tower Hill. I will probably catch him, so I might take my time and not wear the tracks out on this beast. The neighbor's still over there seeding his wheat crop. I really think that wheat is a viable option if you're interested in cover crops. Double cropping wheat with soybeans after, both as cash crops, accomplishes a cover crop in a way and also gets you a higher total cash flow. I don't know about the profitability. For a few years there, double crop beans and wheat together were the best source of net farm income around here. I don't know if that's still the case or not. You get all that organic matter from the wheat crop all off season, holds your soil in place. It's basically a cover crop that pays you. I don't know if it's as good as rye. I really don't know the details. Definitely something to look into if you're interested in cover cropping. I'd like to explore the cereal rye and then plant a regular full season soybean crop ahead of it. A lot of options. About an hour and 20 or 30 minutes later, we made it. It's not really a bad drive with the 8R370 and grain cart. I would imagine that is not fun with the bigger combine. That thing's so wide and swirly, it's just kind of a chore to take it down the road. It's one thing going 5 miles, it's another thing going 35 plus. I'm always concerned about driving the tracks for that far of a distance. I stopped halfway at Barker Implement, where we actually bought the grain cart along Route 16 and talked them. They weren't really that warm then, and I mean, they're definitely warm, but they're not going to burn your hand. Probably 90 degrees. I don't know what temperature becomes a hazard. Yeah, those aren't bad at all. Opening her up. Dragged up immediately there on the end. It's always when he goes to unload too, so he gets all haywire. Didn't spill anything. Maybe knocked a few extra beans out of the pods, otherwise not a big deal. I need to adjust the settings, Dad.
These soybeans are Beck's 3779. I believe it's a pretty good variety. Beck's has a lot of good stuff. I'd hate to have to sell against them, honestly, on top of their commitment rewards. And of course, their really strong faith-based messaging that I think really hits home with a lot of the conservative farm population in America. They got a lot of things that make it hard to sway customers away or allow customers to come towards them. This ground's comparable to some of our more moderate acres back at home. It's not super productive. If it gets the rains, it can be really good. The beans look good. I don't know if they're yielding well or not. We'll have to cut a field to tell. The major differences with these soybeans versus what we have back home, this is the first time in years we've planted 30-inch row beans because our DB60 that has 20-inch rows broke down. We used our corn planter with bean plates, obviously. Dropped these at 140,000. Looks like we got a good stand. They look good, but that's only worth so much on soybeans.
Katie's here with the second machine. I think Dad's gonna have to get out and dig out his draper again because they're not cutting very easily yet this morning. And they're already sub 13%, which is the worst part. That rain earlier helped even things up. Really, you take a rain halfway through soybean cutting to kind of re-moisturize the remaining beans, because now we're getting into stuff that's too dry, and we're not the only ones, because I bet 2/3 of the fields around here have not been harvested yet. We're earlier than a lot of people it looks, yet later than some of the early people. If you think about it hard enough, that makes sense. Katie's splitting open the middle. Dad's chewing off the last in row here on the east side, and we'll be off to the races. I talked to the elevator manager over in Pena. They said they built a new soybean pit last year, so we may be able to keep up with 2 trucks. Unless these beans make 100, which I would be shocked if they did, based on what I've seen so far on all of our other acres. This is the first field we've planted in 30-inch rows in probably 4 or 5 years now. We transitioned away all of our acres from 30-inch rows to 15-inch rows. Then 2 years ago, we traded for that 60-foot 20-inch row planter just to get more done, spend less money per row unit, and still maintain the narrow rows. The breakdown I mentioned earlier happened this spring. We were crunched. We felt a lot of pressure because of all the rain, the late planting, and the risk of more rain, so we planted this on 30-inch rows. It's kind of a gamble because some people are adamant that narrow rows outperform wide rows on a more marginal acre. I don't know if this farm actually qualifies as a marginal acre. It's not as productive as some of the blacker, dark Central Illinois soils some of you are familiar with, yet it can yield with the best of them if it gets rain. I think that's been the limiting factor all year, and it may be a limiting factor here. When we used to raise 30-inch rows and had platforms, we would cut with the row. I've talked to some people in the last few years, neighbors and farmers around the area, that actually cut their 30-inch rows, and that's all they have is 30-inch rows, at an angle for the same reason we cut our narrow rows at an angle. They feed into the draper better if they come out consistently across, as opposed to just loading one spot up on the cutter bar the whole way through. I told Katie to run about a 6-degree angle. I don't know if that's enough or too much. Shouldn't really hurt us. It's just going to give us more point rows on the end. We've got a couple big fields here that we should be able to eat through nice and steadily. Maybe we'll get 200 acres done by the end of the day. I'll be sure to let you know. This morning we had the issue with Dad forgetting his phone at home where it's supposed to be charging, whatever. And then
about there.
Chris is on his way back after taking Jeff back for one of the semis, and we're gonna have him stop in Shelbyville and just grab lunch for everyone. Chris left his phone in Dad's truck here at the field. So we've had 2 phone issues in one day, which is hilariously ironic. If you squint your eyes just on the other side of that field ditch, I think there's a bald eagle out there. A bald eagle's like the opposite of the black cat from the other day. It's the sign of good luck in America. There it goes. See you later, buddy. Thanks for stopping. The soybean dust must have him disoriented. Don't worry, buddy. Happens to me too. We almost got this first 120 acres done in just 4 hours, 3.5 hours. That's good time for us. Dad's moving down Route 16 with the 45-foot draper on to open up a field. Could get a little tight. Okay, he's off the road, nice. Katie's cutting the last pass on the north field, and then Dad is about full on the south field here. I'm trying to keep them separate for yield data analysis. Whatever, that didn't sound very good. But I gotta wait on Katie. We probably should have Dad cut another round before he left. There's only so much the poor cart driver can do. Big machine had to stop. Sounds like the grain tank full override sensor must have gone on top of the cab based on how the grain is still slightly trickling off. I've got some hard numbers. On the north side of the road, just shy of 120 acres of those Beck's 3779s planted, I think the 3rd week of May. I can't recall right now. I'd have to look at my calendar. They made right at 70 bushels an acre, if not slightly below. That's better than a lot of our May beans we planted back around home. This could just be me trying to make excuses for us. From the farmers I've talked to, the seed salesmen, there's a channel in the southern central band of Illinois, kind of where I'm at, where from here, maybe to the west and all the way to the east towards Indiana, the yields on soybeans are not impressive. I mean, we're talking 60 bushel beans. Cutting beans, what we've been doing for a while now. What have these beans been testing at the elevator? They look dry.
At 10. Last load was 99. Earlier they were like 10.2.
That's painful. It's a lot of bushels lost. Katie and Dad have spent the last 30 minutes cutting around the gauntlet, I like to call it. There's some very inconveniently placed power lines that crisscross across this field. They're horrible to plant around, horrible to spray around. It's just part of the farm though, so you gotta do it. You also gotta cut around them. There was an old railroad that ran this way. That's why the power pole's this way. And then this is a high voltage transmission line, so separate deal. Good news, they survived the gauntlet. It's good when you survive gauntlets, so I've been told.
Guess I'm gonna have to use a bigger bit. What do you think?
It's worth a shot.
Let's cut them.
I don't know that it'll make it to the end of the day, but the belt can't get any worse.
I'll cut this field tonight, or do you just want to quit?
We should at least take the ends off.
What time does the elevator close?
7. We're finishing up the north half of the south 160 acre field. We flew through it pretty quick. Beans are terribly dry, 10% or less moisture. That X9 chews through them, 60 to 70 bushel an acre. The yields are a little bit poorer than the north side. This farm is lower quality overall. The soil's not as productive. and we've seen it year after year, usually down 5 to 10% versus the field across the road. It's that simple. You go a little distance, the soil changes, you lose yield. It's really amazing how much your productivity per hour increases when you have two large fields next to each other that don't even require you to unhook the heads. We're averaging almost 30 acres an hour right now in productivity, which is probably an all-time record for us other than when we cut the 220 acre field back home. The beans are dry, like I said, so we're chewing right through them. They're not yielding as well as I wish they would. That's been the story for this year overall. None of our beans have done well. 60 to 70, that's catching everything, including what we're on now. It's just mind-blowing because these beans look like they're making 90 plus. When they're planted late, they put on a ton of vegetative growth. That doesn't always equal yield. Got a good old-fashioned smoke screen going on right now. Combines are separating the dust from the beans, and the sun is making it very hard to see through that. Oh, we finally got a neighbor nearby. Normally there's people running all around when we're over here, but they all must just be in a different area. Doesn't mean they're not working, they're just not working here. Except for this guy, he's working here now. That cold air is setting in fast tonight. The temperature outside's probably dropped 20 degrees, maybe 15 degrees. Dad's complaining about dragging up.
The same thing when I was out a little bit ago.
Katie's agreeing that the temperature is cooling off. It's very obvious outside. With these beans being so dry forecast for the next few days, we're not going to burn the midnight oil. Once they start having difficulties cutting, we're going to shut off. We might be money ahead because we can pick up a few points of moisture overnight and bring the yield up that we've lost because of water weight. These things are probably getting under 9%, which is a horrific amount of moisture loss that is a deduction to us, and it benefits the elevator because they're probably blending them off with beans that were 15 or 16% earlier in the season. If you're not putting them in your bin, you don't get to capture that averaging premium. You just get to lose all of it. There's no premium for it. Dry beans stink, you lose weight, the elevator benefits. Lights are on. Beans are getting tough. We're going home for the night. See you guys tomorrow. We're back over in western Shelby County this morning. Got another 80 acres or so to cut. Doing our morning service to hopefully finish up. Looks like Dad's zip tie job was 50% effective. One of them broke, the other one held. So nothing quite like using two 50-cent, probably 10-cent zip ties to hold together a $3,000 belt. How much does this belt cost?
Don't know.
This belt's got to be $3,000, I bet. Maybe it's not that much, maybe it's more. It's got to be in the ballpark. The sun's gonna have to shine for a little bit this morning. You can see the dew sitting on this belt right here. It's good because it'll bring the moisture up on the beans that are left. They were getting pretty dry last night. It's bad because we're gonna have to wait for a couple hours to cut, unless I'm underestimating Mother Nature. May go earlier than that.
What was this, 18 foot?
18 foot wide.
So should I go straight or turn?
You can try going straight, you just need to be careful.
I am careful.
Well, if you go over a bridge, just make sure you're going slow enough that it doesn't damage something, it just stops you.
One of them we did tighter than the other one.
Oh, you think we did one of these too tight?
Which one's broke?
The one closest to the combine.
Towards the back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it tighter.
Well, that only took 10 minutes.
Open the nuts. I've lost those nuts.
Your nuts all right. They're usually in the last place you look.
I looked in the socket.
What about your pockets?
I don't think so. I must be stupid today.
We all have those days. Maybe one of these rats ran off with it. Dad's gone nuts. He's losing his nuts. Oil's good on this 1100. Looks like the beans are dry enough to cut at 9 o'clock this morning. It's a good thing we got over here, got everything serviced. They're already running 11-12% moisture. The hard part about this time of year is that when soybeans get this dry, usually you're not waiting on the moisture content of the beans to get down. you're waiting on ground conditions and stem moisture to get off because they make them harder to cut. So it's complicated. It's kind of a losing proposition. You got to wait for them to be harvestable, yet you're immediately losing yield because of the weight loss. I know some of you are probably wanting an update on the X9 that's in the shop over at Mattoon. So far, we've been told the rotor definitely needs replaced. They said the rotor alone, according to my dad, this could be not entirely true, is $17,000, not including labor. You've got the feed accelerator components, the mounting bracket, the rotor shell. I don't know if that's included or not. So going to be an expensive repair. Hopefully our ingestion insurance covers it all. Not something you really want to have to deal with. Although we get to use this nice X9 1100 for virtually free, minus our deductible. So it's kind of a losing, winning battle at the same time. Well, that's no fun. The beans are already 10%. It's not what you want to see. Can't really win here. You need a rain and we're not going to get one, so you just got to cut them. You don't leave beans in the field. Looks like we've only got 20 or 25 acres left. I think these beans will end up in the mid-60s, hopefully. They're already dry, so we've lost a lot of yield there. I probably said that a time or two. Yesterday we saw the black and white bird. Today we see the black and white ground mammal that stinks. He's on a mission, headed northeast. Probably gonna go visit the semi-trucks and skunk them too. That's it for this field. We never saw the skunk again, and hopefully we don't see it again. Dad is finishing up the last through on the south side. Katie just unhooked her head. We gotta move 2 miles north and 2 miles west for 50 acres. Get that wrapped up and we can head home. I smell the skunk, which is concerning. I don't see it anywhere, so maybe Katie's combine got sprayed and it's just got a residual scent on it. My wife would probably be the first one to tell you guys that some days I have a residual scent. That's why I try to shower regularly, at least once a week. Moving to the next one. I don't normally go first. I'm on an exploratory expedition right now because there's a few narrow bridges on the way to the next field, and I'm gonna get ahead of Dad and help him spot as he crosses over them to make sure that we don't blow a tire on the combine. It's about 19 foot wide. This should involve slowing down if he wants to. Good. You're good. There's multiple combines down this way. We're joining the party. Wow. That's narrow. Looks like you got it though. I know I give my dad a hard time a lot, and a lot of it's joking. He's actually a phenomenal equipment operator. Except for with the backhoe. If he's in the backhoe, stay away from him. You could end up injured. Whoa! Up! 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 I feel kind of bad because there was a lady in a combine sitting here, and with how we had everything parked, we shouldn't have seen everything at once. A little bit of a traffic jam. She waited patiently for 5 minutes and also waved when she went by. So thanks to you, lady I don't know. You're only the second female combine operator I've seen around here, other than my sister. Gotta commend that. And of course, thanks for being nice about it. Could have flipped us the bird when she went by. One pleasant surprise, that south 160 acres, let's say it's actually a little bit less than that with how it lays, made in the upper 60s, like 68 or 69, almost close to 70 if they wouldn't have been so darn dry. That's a pleasant surprise because usually it's 5 to 10% off of the field across the road. What that tells me is that water was our limiting factor. The delayed planting doesn't help. I think the south 80 of that entire south 160 also didn't suffer the bean on bean penalty because we had continuous beans on the north 120 and the north 80 because we're trying to keep everything here on the same crop rotation, so it's easier for us as farmers. And you probably lose a few bushels because of added disease and insect pressure. Overall, if the field across the road made 70 and the other one made upper 60s, that's pretty good from what we're seeing. Is it great? No. nothing we've had so far is great. The best beans we've cut this year are 77. We're just not in a good pocket of the country here for good yields. You go north, I've heard tremendous things. If you go south, not heard great things there either. So there's a line there. It's probably a lot to do with soil quality too. Whew, this thing stinks. Better than running it through the machine. Well, you could have ran one through. You might have had a whole family there.
Probably, because that one was pretty small.
It's 50 acres, should go pretty quick.
I knew better than to compliment Dad's operational abilities, because right after I said that, he about dumped the draper off the side of the head cart. Gotta be careful telling people they're good at things, even though he didn't hear me say it. This field's also got some really weird gremlins out in it, like these spots. That's still got standing water in it. It hasn't rained in 2+ weeks. The ground's dry. I don't know if this is an old driveway. We are kind of in oil country, so I wonder if these are oil access roads, and then maybe there's an old tank battery or salt pit over there, and that's why the ground's so compacted, the water's not moving, and of course nothing grows. I did some research this summer on this farm. There's actually an oil transfer pipeline that runs from the southeast corner kind of to the middle, goes like this direction. And I went into the Google historical imagery, and just like 10 years ago, they had this pipeline either dug up or they were installing it. I don't know which one of the two, but they had the topsoil pulled on this farm. That was obviously before we had any familiarity with this ground. I just don't think on some of these fields, if it's not done properly, that you can bring a track hoe out and dig a trench across the entire farm, and a big trench at that, and get it back put together correctly unless you are very careful. You got to make sure you put the subsoil back where it goes and the topsoil on top. And even then, sometimes those pipelines are a stain and burden that will never go away, but it's just part of it. Down over at Tower Hill. Looks like the yields are about the same that we have at home. They're okay. There's nothing to brag about. I don't know if narrow row beans like our 20-inch row planter would have performed better because they would have conserved more moisture under the canopy. Who knows? If it's the August rains that made the difference, then the answer is no. Somehow took a different route and got ahead of the slope hogs, because here comes Dad and Katie from the west.
How far is it, baby?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially having a day. I think the skunk changed our luck for the worse. I'm back home here at the farm. Katie's almost home, and Dad is stranded on the roadside here between Tower Hill and Shelbyville. His combine threw some kind of an error code, if I can find it. Ground drive transmission problem. Transmission lubrication pressure severely low. Ground speed limited. Dad said it basically stopped him from moving completely. If it had happened in any worse of a spot, he would have had the entire road blocked off because there's a narrow bridge through here. We're hoping that it's just low on hydraulic oil. I've not been over there to diagnose. I'm here at the fuel pump at home. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario, which is entirely possible, although Dad said everything looks fine, is that this combine is going to get loaded up on a lowboy and taken to the dealership, which would not be good. Maybe it was just low on oil and we never noticed it. I didn't check the hydraulic oil this morning. I would think a low hydraulic oil warning would have gone off on its own, and Dad said he didn't see any leaks anywhere. Yep, that's how today's going. I'll give you an update when I have one. I fueled up before I left home. We had about a 35+ mile trip one way, so let's say 72, 73 miles round trip. Cut 320 acres of beans over 2 days, and I put 77 gallons of fuel in the tank. It's really not as much as I was expecting. I've been keeping tabs on Dad through the John Deere Operations Center. It looks like he started the combine a few minutes ago and then got the same error code after adding hydraulic oil. I'm guessing that means that he's hopping a ride with Jeff and heading home. Obviously you won't see this video for a few days, but if you see a nice John Deere X9 between Shelbyville and Tower Hill on the side of the road like an ornament, that's ours. It's broken. Even if the most productive machine is down, if you have another one that's functioning, the show must go on. Katie left, she's headed over to Lerna. We're gonna cut with one machine. We gotta make progress. Got 230 acres over there to cut. Hopefully they yield better than our stuff around home. They caught some late rains and too much rain in spots. Our luck is not great. We've got combines breaking down, yield's not good. But hey, at least grain prices are up. Oh, nope, they're down today. This combine issue brings a really good question to my mind, and I think some of you can offer some valuable insight to that. The other machine that's broke down has 330 engine hours on it, so it's a young pup in terms of its service life, or at least I would hope so. This 670 over here is knocking on 2,100 engine hours, and although anything could go wrong at any point in time, it's been pretty reliable from a transmission and engine standpoint. I can't think of anything major that's had to be done to it. The question that I have going around in my mind now is, if you're in the used market for equipment like a combine, how many engine hours does that machine need to have on it before you have accepted that any factory flaw has been worked out or serviced? Does 500 engine hours cross that threshold? 1,000? When do you know that anything that could have gone wrong because of a factory defect has gone wrong? Back to business. We are east of Lerna here. Some May planted 20-inch row, 3997. That's a Beck's Extend Flex variety. These look really good. The beans at Tower Hill looked really good too, although I think these look better. These are a later season bean, a 3.9. They may have caught a nice rain at the end, and hopefully that finishes them a little stronger. Maybe puts a little more yield on the table versus what we harvested earlier, and honestly, a lot of what we harvested around home. Sometimes it's just random chance every year what beans yield great and what don't. All about when the rain falls. A little bit of an update for you. The machine has been loaded onto a lowboy, and I believe it will be at Sloan's and Mattoon's still. Maybe they'll park it right next to the other one that's in there getting the rotor replaced. Going too fast? Must have been. For a minute there, I thought you broke her cutter bar. Something broke them.
Oh, speed sensor problem.
So either the speed sensor's out on the draper or the bearing is locking up and it's causing it to slip. Either way, that draper's not going to cut until that's fixed. So I will tune back in when we have some kind of harvesting action going on. Despite not having a single capable combination of combine and header that will cut soybeans this morning, we do need to keep the ball rolling. We're going to take this auger down, get this bin shut up with the whopping 2,900 bushel of beans we put in it, and get it moved home. Grass is hardly even wet this morning, so the beans would probably cut. No, those are wet actually, with a little bit of moisture. I'm giving the camera a 60% chance of not falling off where it is right there. Not looking good, but we'll try it. It's fallen a few times before. Must have just been the spot I was walking in, because this grass is completely wet. We're not going to take the auger completely home. We're just going to move it somewhere a little bit more private. We've got a few more corn bins here, and then we've got this corn that the top's out of, so that may be some of the first corn we pick once we finish these last couple fields of beans. May take us a month to get them done, but we will get to them. At least augers aren't long and obnoxiously cumbersome to take down the road. If you didn't pick up on that, that was sarcasm. They're really a pain to take down the road. There seems to be a pretty positive correlation between the number of trains that I catch on camera and the amount of times we break down. So maybe I need to stop acknowledging every time I see a train. Here's our morning service update. The 630 FD is about done getting new bearings and possibly a new roller on the left side. They were out. We dropped it off here last night, and they're gonna have it done this morning by maybe 9:15, 9:30. That's quick work for that project. We would have never gotten it done that fast. The X9 1000 is halfway tore apart. They're waiting on a special tool to pull the rotor. The new rotor's been ordered, at least that's what I've been told. The X9 1100 with the bad pump, they're not sure which pump's bad. It's just something's not working on it. It just got drug in this morning. These guys here at Mattoon are literally top notch. Dad had that X9 down on the side of the road, and within 45 minutes to an hour, they had a technician from Mattoon, that's about a 40-mile drive, out on the side of Route 16 west of Shelbyville, trying to see if there was any simple fixes that could get the machine home. When they determined there wasn't any, they had a lowboy there from Sloan's within another hour, hour and a half. It does help that my dad is a lovable type of pain in the rear end, so sometimes I think they give him preferable treatment just because he can be a little bit persistent at times. And he is good to them, I think, as well. We're loyal customers. And at the rate we're going, we're gonna have every single bay in their shop filled up with broken combines because we've already got 2 in there. I think they've only got room for 4 more. 30-foot draper should be back in action. Big shout out to Trevor here at Sloan's for getting that done in maybe 2 hours. That's efficiency right there, folks. Beans probably aren't even dry enough to cut yet from a harvestability standpoint. And Sloan's has got us our draper back and operational. At least we think so before then. Guys, hard at it with only 1 machine to catch. Been sitting here for 10 minutes at least. Better than putting hours on the tractor. I honestly have a hard time believing that people used to farm with horses. It's like watching paint dry, just running 1 machine that might be averaging 1,200 bushels an hour, and this is slow going. Hopefully they got the big rig ready to go again soon. I found the silver lining. One of our better soybean fields of the year, probably in the top 3 right there. Beck's 3997s east of Lerna, 75 plus bushels an acre. They must have caught a rain or something we didn't back home. It's a good farm. If these weren't 9%, they would have been closer to 80. And if these were planted in April, I bet they'd be 90 bushel beans. Can't play the what if game when it comes to soybeans or farming in general, but there was a lot of potential out here that we just couldn't capitalize on. That 3.9 Beck's number is pretty good. Katie ran down the road. We've got another 30-acre patch there. Looks like the neighbors have a Flagship case combine running next door. I believe they're John Deere and maybe Lexion people, so that is either a demo or they got a new combine. Not too familiar with this area, so I could be wrong on that. We've got 4 fields in total here, including this one. This one's usually the best, so I doubt any of them top that 75 plus, although anything's possible. Yep, you are seeing that correctly. And no, I'm not talking about Katie plugging her draper in green beans. No, no, no. The X9 that was out of commission and on a lowboy 10 business hours ago is back at the field after a major repair. That's why we run John Deere right there. Service. May not be great everywhere, but John Deere service here in Central Illinois is top notch.
and fix was some kind of return pump on the backside of the transmission that sends the oil back up to the reservoir. And because of that, the combine couldn't move. Big shout out to Sloan for their phenomenal service getting this thing ready. The hilarious part about the story is that there is not a single one of those pumps in the United States right now. However, there happens to be another X9 that some silly farmer ran a steel rod through the left rotor of that's not capable of doing anything for the next few days, that they happen to be able to borrow the same pump off of. So they had to steal a pump from our broken machine that this rental one was replacing to get the rental one running again so we can keep harvesting while they fix the original one. I know it's a complicated mess, but they got us going. That's all that matters. They'll either have to switch them out once they get the other one going. I don't know. That's too confusing. We're not going to worry about that today. We're going to finish cutting these beans. Let's go.
We are evaporating this field, literally and figuratively, because the moisture is 9% or less, which is not great, but the two machines together just cover the acres. We go from 12 to 13 acres an hour average to probably 40, 35 to 36. That's a little bit better and more honest. Got 130 acres of soybean harvest left. That's it. Don't fail on us now, combine.
Time to move to the next one.
Just screams fall. Hello.
You just want Nate to bring that semi down there.
Yeah, go ahead and bring it over. Have them follow you guys so it's not in the way.
Okay. All right.
The neighbors went over there with that red Case 9250. They have 3 different colors of combine in one field. That Case, an older Lexion, and then, I don't know, a deer of some kind. 3 machines though, they're probably getting a lot done. And with the yields we're seeing around here, that's a lot of bushels coming off the field. That's probably why the elevator's not keeping up.
Jeff says good morning. He's shining up his windows so he can see clearly while he's waiting in line at the elevator today.
Looks like we got a breakdown on the 30-foot draper. It's turning on the drive shaft going to the left side, but once you get on the outer left cover, there's nothing spinning. So the gearboxes are fine. Either the shaft's twisted off or something. It's not been cutting great today or yesterday, and maybe the stress finally took its toll.
Dad and I got it tore apart a little bit ago. He went on a parts run. Nothing was spinning on this side of the shield, so it was behind this area on the drive shaft going back to the main gearbox. We pulled the shielding off to see the actual shaft itself, and then noticed that this right here had slid completely off of the hex shaft on the inside, and it was just freely rattling. So we pulled that back in. He went for parts. I haven't talked to him because I've been busy catching Katie in the bigger machine. I don't know what it's lacking, but that sliding off, it basically just rendered the left half of the cutter bar useless. I don't know if this will fix it or not. The other machine's back in action. My cousin Eli's here riding today. It's been a few years, but he really enjoys the farm. He gets to ride the big combine. Who wouldn't want to do that? The old soybeans are a little green out here in the water damage spot. Even with all the dirt work that was done out here 2 falls ago to mitigate that, there's really nothing you can do to overcome what I believe was 10 plus inches of rain in a week. It's just hard to do anything about it when you got low-lying, swampy dirt. We do have an eagle visiting us. He's up in that dead tree branch, supervising. Pretty neat.
obviously whatever we did that we thought fixed the issue only was temporary, because the left half of Katie's cutter bar is again not cutting. We were doing good until the eagle left. Also looks like Katie cut about 100 foot without even noticing the left half wasn't cutting. It was that same shaft that slid off again, so we slid it back on, re-tightened it. Maybe we'll get another 10 acres out of it. Not really sure what's going on. Got about one round left in this 100-acre field. It's taken longer than expected because of the breakdowns. We've got another 30-acre field right up the road, and then that'll be it for soybeans, other than some straggling fields that we had to leave because they were too green. If you told me 4 weeks ago that with 15 acres of water damage, this field of Beck's 3997s was going to make 73, I'd tell you you're crazy. But they did. They made 73 out here. That's shocking in a good way. I was expecting them to be low 60s with how much water went across here and stood, and yet we cut 73 bushel beans. That is phenomenal. I drew a little zone on the John Deere Op Center on the iPad. I'm kind of limited with what I can analyze here, and I also have to do post-harvest yield calibration. The area I circled, and I was a little generous, 24.5 acres subject to some pretty severe water damage, and the farm still made 73. That means that these beans where there wasn't water damage, and I actually skipped a few spots here that definitely had some pain inflicted from the rains in July.
Come down here, Andy.
These had to have been 90 bushel beans out there in spots. Last full field of soybean harvest. One of our truck drivers had to go home because the rear window in the semi shattered to a million pieces, and Dad got a bunch of cat beans in the process. Unrelated, I guess, but they both occurred. That's a wrap. With the other truck having the window broken out of the back, we sit at home. We probably should have brought the other one over, because now I'm sitting here with 1,200 bushels on the cart. Katie's got another 200, maybe 300 on her combine, and I'm just waiting on Jeff to get back from the elevator. They're all moving on to cut some straggler beans that we had to leave earlier. Pretty much done with soybean harvest. We may not have made much money this year, but we had fun, and that's what we're here for, right, ladies and gentlemen? It's all about the fun. I've been sitting at that field so long waiting on trucks that Dad has already been here, cut what is matured, left the rest, and gone home to get ready to pick corn. Looks like we still got a lot out there that's not quite there yet. The corn head is on. Let's just hope it folds without a ridiculous amount of software updates. Just topped off the fuel, used a whopping 50 gallons moving to Lerna, cutting those beans and coming home. This would be a nice point in the day to just disappear, go home, see my family, and then we can all focus on corn tomorrow. No rain in the forecast, so it's not like there's a lot of pressure on us. Yeah, good for airflow, bad for window things. Completely shattered. Calibrate this corn head real quick. I know, real exciting stuff going on here. It's like Simon says. Well, that went better than our other combine. Immediately. It must already have that top secret software that allows your corn head you've already paid for to work. One of these days you're going to have to pay for a subscription to unfold your folding corn head. You wait. That and your heated seat, they've already got us on the auto steer. Tying up a few loose ends, switching to corn. Alrighty folks, I'm unplugging for the day. Make sure you tune in the next video because we're going to be picking some corn. Finally get to see some nice yields around home. I think we've got some nice stuff, some hidden gems in spots. Or it could be a train wreck. You have to watch the next video to find out. Appreciate you all watching. See you later and have a great day. Peace!